Good morning, shopkeep. I'm here to buy a rake.
No. Go out and come in again.
What?
Buy a rake? It's preposterous. Come in again.
Now look here.
I won't so much as entertain your rake-buying antics unless you go out, think about what you've done, and then come in again.
This is ridiculous.
La 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 la. I can't hear you. La 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 la.
Hello, I'd like to buy a rake.
Listen, I warned you about that. Why do you think I just had you go out and come back in again? The good of my health? Because I felt the need to waft more of the urine-flecked city air into my humble shop? Because Dame Judi Dench demanded it?
Dame Judi Dench?
Well, okay, she didn't so much as demand it as suggested to me one day when she was in here buying a floral hat and a knob of butter that maybe I don't put up with you rake-buying type people anymore. She's a lovely lady and doesn't suffer pulls.
Don't you mean fools?
No. Pulls with a P. The chlorine brings her out in a horrible rash about her neck and privates.
Listen, this has all been very bizarre, and really I was just looking for a rake. Do you sell rakes, or am I to take it that you have absolutely no garden equipment here at all?
Oh, we have garden equipment. Oh, sir, we have simply oodles of garden equipment. For you to come in here and insinuate in your rough tones and ghastly tie that I, Herbert Whipple Nipplechoke, don't have garden equipment, well, quite honestly, it's almost as bad as treason. It might actually be worse. The Queen's popularity is not what it was, after all, much like my Aunt Doris's ability to hold in a fart.
Right, well, I'm sorry for any offence caused. I will simply, and for one last time, repeat my, what I think is a very reasonable request of wishing to purchase from you, with cash, a rake.
I warned him. I really did warn him. Rakes by rummy. Who ever heard of such a thing? I tell you what, running a shop called Rakes is not what it used to be.
Hello, do you have a large, wobbly, revolving, vibrating, neon-coloured dildo?
Ah, you, sir, are in precisely the right place. Come in. Now, would you like the very large or the absolutely eye-watering one?
Okay, so can everyone tell me what was wrong with that sketch? Alan?
Well, it didn't make any sense or have any premise.
Good. What else?
I'd like to buy a rake, please.
Oh no, am I still in that dream?
Not only are you still in the dream, more things are about to get really fucking weird. Rakes.
Sorry, David, why'd you say that?
Cue the theme music.
Forged from the same fire that gave us Brill Cream, John Travolta in a cowboy hat, and the mysterious allure of Ellen Barkin's forehead. Raised by wolves in a New England cave, and routinely hosed down with pudding by Peruvian dwarves. He won the award for the most person least likely to be the most person least likely at something. His face has been used to calm and soothe rabid hamsters down from a vicious and night-long panty-destroying session in New York City's prestigious Naked Butts district. In the future, several of his offspring will fight a horde of giant orange robot clown shoes and wrestle power back from the evil albino fuck goblin Pence and give it to the power's rightful owner, the Dutch. He also collects whale teeth, can fart a mean rumba, and once met Eric Stoltz in a lift and never once considered calling the heavily armed ginger authorities for help to subdue Stoltz and send him back to the intensity clinic that grew him in a petri dish along with Crispin Glover and that kid from The Omen. It's the one, the only, the regularly tall dude from Massachusetts, returning champion, Dr. Scott Toomey.
Hello, Jon Cross. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's fantastic to have you back. And
been a little while.
It has been a minute, as they say. Was the last episode we did Ellen Barkin's forehead leather with Mo Porn, like years ago?
It might have been. I'm trying to think. Did we do John Hughes after that or before that? That's a question for the ages. I'm not sure.
I think we did John
first.
Hughes after that. But it's about your fourth time on the show, I want to say.
I think so. Yeah, that sounds right.
That's right, fourth or fifth time. But it's always fantastic to have you, and we'll have to have you on the show a lot more frequently. Now,
well, thanks.
This particular episode was meant to be recorded and released during October, but October became completely swamped with a lot of things. Also, Scott, exciting news. The After Movie Diner has transitioned over to the all-new shiny platform of Blog Talk Radio.
Oof.
And that was happening all through October, so I had to kind of do a lot of things on the back end, as they say, which sounds a bit filthy. But no, actually, it was just all technical gumph, and I didn't really want to start releasing a whole bunch of episodes if I couldn't put them on the platform, the new shiny platform. Just to fill you in, sir, we were talking a little bit about this when we met up in Massachusetts, I believe.
Yep.
But for the listeners who don't know, you might have suddenly started hearing 30-second ads at the beginning of the show, and you might be thinking, oh, I don't know, is Jon Cross sold out? What's going on? Well, Blog Talk Radio, for people who don't know, is a fantastic platform that basically says, why should the top 1% of podcasters get all the ad revenue? You know what I mean? Like the Mark Marons and the Kevin Smiths of the world, you know, they get the coin from like the post office with stamps.com, and they get AdamandEve.com used to do it all the time when people wanted to sell like porn.
Yeah.
But then Squarespace was the other one. Squarespace.
Oh, that's right. Yep, Squarespace.
So what Blog Talk did was they went out to the market and they went, look, we're going to fill our system, our servers, with great independent podcasting, and we're going to go out to all these different advertisers and say, hey, instead of going on one show that can get you a million listens or whatever, how about you go on thousands of shows that could get you thousands of listens each?
Well, why should those guys get all the money? They get all the money to begin with.
Right. So it's a great thing, and it's normally a paid-for service. They came to me and said, we'd love to have you on our network because we like your show, which kind of made me a little bit flabbergasted. Like, I was kind of amazed by that. And but looking at it, you know, people were very generous on Patreon. People have been very generous buying the albums and stuff. But, I do need money to help support the website, and I do need money to help support the production of the show. And I don't like asking, what seems to be the kind of the same 20 people all the time for that. Yeah. So this way, nobody has to do anything except follow the show on blogtalkradio.com, blogtalkradio.com/aftermoviediner. Just follow the show. Nobody has to do anything. I'll get it's a bit like Spotify. Like, I'll get a few pennies per show, per listen, per show kind of thing. So it's
every little bit helps.
No one is getting rich off this thing, but like I say, it will help. So anyway, that's the
gotta grow the brand.
Yeah, indeed. Well, that's the other thing, is that they are offering me advertising on their website, and they'll tweet about the show when it goes up and stuff like that. So
sounds awesome.
Right, and I don't have to do any more towards that. That just happens. So that's fantastic. And obviously, all I need to urge people to do if they want to support the show now, is just share it. Share it, share it, share it. Tell your friends, neighbors, work colleagues, the guy down the street, people you hate. Just tell everybody, listen to the show. That's
I'm going to hang a big banner on the outside of my apartment. So.
You should, man. You should. Let's take down the Clinton-Trump shit and let's throw up After Movie Diner. That's what we're talking about. Jon Cross, the immigrant for president, come 2020. How about it, people?
I'd vote for you.
So anyway, Dr. Toomey, years ago, people will remember that around Halloween time, we did a fantastic seasonal slashers episode.
We did.
Where we talked about slasher films for different seasons and different... so we did Halloween, and we did Thanksgiving, and a whole bunch of them that kind of fit around various holidays. We did...
What's the other one that we did? Did we do Mother's Day? I can't remember. I don't know if we did Mother's Day.
Yeah, I don't remember either. Did we do Silent Night, Deadly Night? Or no, that was with Jim. No. I did that. So... Oh,
man. This is what happens when you get old. You forget things. You know what I mean? been quite a few years since we did that episode. So,
but people should check it out anyway. People should check it out. But it's
and
nice.
Alan Barkin's forehead leather episode too is a classic.
It is. They're all anything with Toomey on it is a classic. Check it out.
My head's getting pretty big over here. So be careful.
So it's a fantastic episode. People should go back and check that out. But this time around, we decided we're going to stick with slashers. We're going to stick with alliteration, and we've gone slasher sequels. And what 3 are we going to be talking about tonight, Mr. Toomey?
What we're going to do, Child's Play 2. We're going to do Prom Night 2, subtitled Hello, Mary Lou.
Yeah. In fact, that's a weird one because they flip it. It's Hello, Mary Lou, and then the subtitle is Prom Night 2, even though it should be the other way. Anyway, carry on.
And then last but not least, I think we might talk about Halloween 2.
Yeah, because I can never get enough of that series. But we're gonna race through it a bit. We're gonna just keep it short and snappy and excited. But let's start off with Child's Play 2 from 1990, directed by John Lafia and written by Don Mancini, who invented the characters and wrote the first one, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I think he was somehow involved in, I think, all of them. I'm pretty sure.
Right. Okay. It looks like it. It looks like he's still going. Actually, he's writing Chucky 7. And
I feel bad because I haven't seen really any of the new ones. I think I've only seen up to part 3, so I haven't seen any of the Seed of or Bride of. I haven't watched any of those yet. So
and this one it's sort of a mixed bag. I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I feel this one is sort of a mixed bag. It's not like the worst slasher I've ever seen by any means, but it's certainly not the best. And I think, therefore, the IMDb rating of 5.7 out of 10 kind of fair. I think it's one of the few where I kind of think that's a fair vote on it.
I agree. I actually found it to be kind of boring, honestly.
Right? Until the ending. I mean, it has that great ending sequence, that great kind of set piece in the doll factory. But up until
awesome.
Yeah, but up until then.
I think I read that was originally supposed to be part of the first movie, and then I guess they ended up cutting it and ended up using it for the sequel, which was nice.
Yeah, and so the basic plot is that the boy from the first one is placed in a foster home with the amazing Jenny Agutter, who wouldn't want to be placed in that foster home, quite frankly.
Right.
He's placed in a foster home with Jenny Agutter. He's still babbling about Chucky, and he's still going on about like the possessed doll, and it's gonna come for him, and all the rest of it. He's in there with is it Christine Elise?
Yeah, who I know from I think she was in a couple of early episodes of ER.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, and what's incredible about this is one of those things where, especially as a writer myself, I don't really understand. But you have the little boy Andy. His character name is Andy Barclay. Okay, that makes sense. Jenny Agutter's character Joanne Simpson. That's fine. Garrett Graham's character Phil Simpson. These are all perfectly normal names. Yep. Christine Elise's character is called Kyle, which first of all is not a female name at all.
Nope.
Right. Secondly, she's not even given a second name, which will make Grace Zabriskie, who plays Grace Poole, she gets a second name, but her first name is just her own first name.
Which is weird because she's kind of a major character in the movie, and she's not big enough to have a second, a last name. What's going on there? Yeah,
so she's just Kyle, which is stupid anyway. And it's one of those kind of like 80s affectations. They're like, well, what do we call like the hip, cool sister who's rebellious and da 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 da? Let's give her a man's name and just give it one name. Like it's one of those things where I look at it and I go, why? Like if I'm a writer, I write down, Jane Wentworth, or so. Like you just make up a name, something that sounds normal, because then it can be Andy, Joanne, Phil, and Jane, and that to me sounds like people. A woman called Kyle. I've never seen that. Have you ever seen that?
But this is the first and only time, I think.
Also, what's completely baffling about this as well is on IMDb, people should check this out, and Child's Play 2, the tagline is the Hungarian tagline. That's the I don't know why. That's the first thing that they have on IMDb is the Hungarian tagline. So
what is the Hungarian tagline?
It's Sajnolom Jack.
Oh, geez, there it is.
Chucky viz Zartert. I don't really speak Hungarian, so I'm probably
ballsing up that pronunciation. Yeah. So, so he goes into foster care, and essentially, I mean, there is a sort of ticking clock element. Like Chucky believes that if he doesn't kill everybody and take the boy's soul within, or jump into the boy's body rather, by a certain point, that he will remain in the Chucky doll forever.
Same plot as the first one, basically.
Yeah, exactly same plot as the first one. Only a whole new bunch of characters in the foster home, and you get basically a series of Chucky doing malevolent, dangerous things, and nobody believing the boy whatsoever. That goes on and on and on, right up until the point where Chucky kills Garrett Graham, right?
Yep. Yeah. Well, he falls down the stairs. He pushes him down the stairs or something like that. The father.
Yeah, he kind of pulls his ankle, and the father falls down the stairs and kind of hits his. It's kind of clumsily filmed. I mean, he's meant to like land on his head.
Everything in this movie was clumsily filmed.
Yeah, sort of. He sort of lands on his head and sort of snaps his neck, is what he's meant to do. But it's not It's not like abundantly apparent as to what's going on. You know, I certainly didn't think it had killed him, so I was kind of surprised when it did. He also like. For some reason, at the beginning of the movie, they're rebuilding the doll from scratch.
Yeah, I actually like that. I thought that was a really cool, setup for, like you see the burned and melted face from the end of the first movie, and I didn't know that they made doll skulls out of metal.
Right.
First of all, I'm sure they don't, but they just had to do that for the movie.
No, they do that. They do that so that Chucky is reinforced and can't be. Yeah. And
they're like, scraping off the melted pieces of his face and rebuilding him. I actually really, really like that for the beginning of the movie.
It is good, but it makes little.
Really cool.
It makes little to no sense if you were a big corporation.
Yeah, why would you do that?
Right, and there was this big threat that apparently your doll had gone crazy and killed someone. I don't know, maybe stop production of the dolls and, I don't know, produce a different kind of doll.
Or not remake the one that was supposedly involved in all of the incidents in the first movie.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe throw it out.
Maybe be done with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Set fire to it or drown it or whatever, chop it up into bits. It always makes me laugh, of course. Like the same thing can be said with sort of Halloween and any of the sequels. It's like once you know they're definitely the killer, and once you know like they keep coming back, by about the fourth sequel, just chop them up. Chop them up into lots of little bits, and although they do that with Jason, right, and he still gets put back together.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? I don't really watch these movies expecting a whole lot of logic, so I'll let it slide.
Yeah, of course not. But no, I mean, this one's kind of fun to begin with. It's got that great kind of like late 80s, early 90s look to it. So in other words, it's kind of polished and bright colors and all the rest of it. And I love that when like Chucky comes back, when they're building him in the factory, one of the scientists gets like, or one of the manufacturers gets like blown through a window. When it all backfires and things.
Wait, who gets the doll eyes poked into their face? Is that towards the end?
That's at the very end when the guy is going through the security. Is it the security guard or something?
I think it is. I think it's one of the security guards. Yeah,
who goes through the machine and then gets
like
doll eyes. Yeah, no, I mean, weirdly enough, like it starts okay and it ends okay, and the middle is just kind of sagging because the middle is just rinse repeat. It's just Chucky does something, boy gets blamed for that thing. Boy goes no, but it's Chucky. Parents go, we should send him back to the foster home. He clearly isn't good enough, isn't well enough yet. And then, eventually Christine Elise or Kyle believes him, and they run to the factory, and there's a bit of a car chase. And then it kind of starts to get good again, I think.
For me, it was like something kind of cool happens every 15 minutes, but like anything in between those 15 minutes, it's like, this is like I'm only watching these movies to see, honestly, to like watch Chucky kill people.
Right.
But I mean, that's why anybody would watch these movies, though. So I guess that's one of the good things. But I was just kind of thinking about this while I was watching the movie, is that I feel like Seth MacFarlane totally ripped these movies off when he did Ted, and the only difference is that the teddy bear doesn't kill people, but
Right.
he speaks in foul language and does funny shit. And Chucky's hilarious in these movies, more so in this one than the first one. I thought they gave him a little bit more freedom, and of course we can't talk about these movies and not mention the phenomenal Brad Dourif, who is just so good at doing the voice of Chucky. So,
and has been doing Chucky the whole time, right?
Yeah, and that's awesome to me, because I feel like a lot of people might think you would get tired of doing something like that, but I mean, if you're just doing voiceover work, then who gives a shit? It takes like 3 seconds to do it. So,
I think, he might disagree with that in particular.
Yeah, probably.
No, but, I think the biggest crime in this movie is the underuse of Jenny Agutter, the fact that she keeps her clothes on, and thirdly, the fact that spoilers is a spoiler song, because I'm now doing spoiler songs again. Yes. There's a spoiler song this episode. Oh, you gotta have a spoiler song on an episode. This is a spoiler song, and it won't go long. Oh, but you have got to warn people about all the spoilers. Oh, yeah, you gotta warn all the people about all the spoilers, or they get their knickers in a twist, or their panties in a bunch, or they get really annoyed, or they get brushed off without spoiler songs, without telling them there's a spoiler coming up. Spoilers. She dies too early. I would rather kill Kyle off, because who the fuck is she? And then have Jenny Agutter be the survivor. But
well, I think that would have made more sense too, because she was trying a hell of a lot harder than Garrett Graham's character to be nice to Andy.
Right.
And I think it would have been cool if she kind of ended up flipping the switch and believing him at the end, and kind of helping him, defeat Chucky at the end of the movie instead of Kyle, because I didn't really care too much for her. So I don't know.
And it's kind of odd as well, because obviously Jenny Agutter is well known as a British actress. She's done a lot of British television. She's done a lot of kind of guest spots on various things, and she's also known for a few movies, namely Walkabout, An American Werewolf in London.
That's the one that I know her from.
Yeah, she did The Eagle Has Landed, Logan's Run. What else did she say? Oh, The Railway Children, when she was much younger in the UK. But then she goes off, she does some TV and things like that, and then crops up weirdly as a blink and you'd miss it cameo in Darkman, and then follows it up with a slightly longer cameo in Child's Play 2, and then goes immediately back to British television again. It's just such a weird kind of career that she's had. She then does works exclusively in England for the longest time, and then shows up in the Avengers as one of the World Security Council. And you'll just say, how does that... her agent just must be bizarre. Well, we've got a cameo in this movie filmed in Bratislava. Oh, yeah, no, well, I'll go do that. And we've got this TV show filmed in Norfolk, England. Oh, yeah, I'll go do that. And then we've got this cameo in an American movie. Oh, I'll do that. It's completely... It's completely bizarre, but
and she came back and did her Avengers character in Captain America too. That's interesting.
She did, and the one thing that was upsetting about that was that it was revealed to be Black Widow doing all those moves. I wanted it to actually be Jenny Agutter who was kicking the shit out of people, because I would have loved that. You know how I love my my aging action stars much more than I like my young bucks.
With good reason too.
With good reason, but I haven't. I feel, it's probably sad for me to say because I actually own the box set with the first 4 of these movies on. I haven't gone forward and watched any of the others. I've seen the first 2.
Yep.
In fact, I've seen this one twice, and I've seen the first one like 10 times. I haven't actually gone on and watched the sequels, so I don't actually know kind of how this progresses or where this sits within the franchise. Have you?
Oh, like in terms of like the quality of like versus the other ones. Oh, geez, I would assume it's probably one of the better ones, but I don't. But same thing, I don't know. I didn't see Bride of Chucky. I didn't see Seed of Chucky. I saw Part 3 like a real long time ago when video stores still existed, and I rented it randomly one night and watched it. And Andy is older; he's like a teenager and at some like military academy or something like that. But I don't know. I don't remember anything beyond that. But no, I think like the first 2. I enjoy them enough to, maybe want to put them on like a Halloween, playlist and watch them, every year, maybe every other year or something like that. But as far as the others go, I couldn't tell you. Maybe I'll watch them next year. I don't know.
Yeah, it's odd. I've never But
it's a really beloved franchise, which is...
It's a really beloved franchise.
Funny.
It's a really beloved franchise, but I don't know. There's nothing in the first 2 that kind of inspire me. I know that like once you get to like The Bride of Chucky and stuff like that, it's a far more Chucky heavy movie rather than a human.
Yeah, it almost becomes more farcical, like the later Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Right. And it's funny because Nightmare on Elm Street is another franchise that while I have actually seen them all, I'm not that fascinated with. I don't quite know why.
Yeah, I feel you. Actually, to tell you the truth, my favorite franchise out of the like the big 3 or the big 4 is probably the Friday the 13th movies because they're basically all the same, but they're all really entertaining.
Yeah, I mean every sort of third movie, the Friday the 13th series tries to do something different. Like on Halloween night, I watched Halloween 4, Friday the 13th Part 4, and Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 because we were doing the Part 4s of like the 3 big franchises.
Nice.
And, again, Friday the 13th Part 4 is the most fun out of those 3. It's the most ridiculous. It's the one where you're watching it and go, sorry, why is there an extended mad dance scene? Why is she going out into the rubber raft into the middle of the water when she knows her boyfriend is in the house completely naked?
Is that the one with Crispin Glover?
Crispin Glover doing the dance.
And Feldman's in it?
Feld Dog's in it, being
yeah,
awesome.
That is one of the better ones.
It's an amazing one, but like it's totally ridiculous. There's halfway through there's twins that come out of nowhere. Then you've got the boy who's watching like Victorian porn on an old 16mm thing, and just the whole thing about it is completely ridiculous. And then you have the silliness added on top of it that at the very end Jason decides to go around and hang all his corpses up so that they can be discovered or walked into. So that's the most fun one. Halloween 4 is like the most solid, best movie scripted, like proper one, if you know what I mean. It's
like
the most legitimate.
For sequels, you mean, or
for sequels. Like Halloween 4 actually attempts to do something where it's like, okay, let's after Halloween, the failure of Halloween 3, let's bring Michael Myers back, and then let's create a whole new franchise. We can't get Jamie Lee back, so let's at least try and say that she had a niece or rather had a daughter, and let's go with that and let's do that. Like it's the one that has the best script out of the 3. And then Nightmare on Elm Street 4 is nothing. Like the only good bit in it is the cockroach bit, and it's only because it's disgusting. Like that's
the Nightmare movies are like past Part 3. I have a really difficult time differentiating between which one's which.
Right. So it's that one and this one. While I should love them because of the quips and the quotes and the one-liners, because I love Brad Dourif and I think that Robert Englund does a great job with Freddy.
Yep.
For me, they're just not they're not written strong enough. Like they do what they can with the characters, but there's just not. I don't know. I'm just not invested in these franchises. Maybe I came to them too late. Maybe it wasn't my thing. I should love the Freddy ones because I'm all about like special effects and weirdness and surrealism and all that. But the characters in them are they're always Not interested in it, and the closest you get to like the special effects is the cockroach one and the fourth one, and that's the best sequence. Apart from that, it's fairly dull retreads of stuff we've seen before.
Well, it's a problem, I think, when you start caring more about Freddy than you care about the people that he fucking kills.
Yeah, and maybe that's why like Jason and Michael work, because while you can like them in that here comes the cool iconic power shot psycho thing.
Yep.
You have the reason why Halloween franchise is my favorite is because you have Donald Pleasence. Sure. And I will always root for Donald Pleasence. It just doesn't matter. And it's like, as charismatic as Christopher Lee is in those old Dracula movies, I'll always root for Peter Cushing as Van Helsing. You know, I've got that good versus evil battle. Yeah. Jason is a little different. Jason is more, you kind of go, why am I watching this goofy teen sex romp movie, and then all of a sudden a guy shows up in a hockey mask and like cleaves one of them in half.
They're so goddamn fun to watch, man.
Right, and it's sort of like, so it's like a sex romp but with killing. That's kind of what Friday the 13th is.
Pretty much.
So, but yeah, Child's Play 2, like I say, I don't know what the series goes on to do with the characters, and I apologize to listeners for that. For my money, the only really exciting bit in this whole movie is the last 10, 15 minutes. And by that point, I was half asleep.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, though. The ending, the ending is a real great set piece, as you had said before. So the only, like, I guess semi-interesting thing that I noticed about this, because I watched 1 and 2 back to back because I wanted to have, you know, kind of like a
frame of reference.
Yeah, frame of reference. I wanted to have the setup for it, and the one thing I noticed is that part 2, it's Chucky's basically is all animatronic, if I'm not mistaken. And in the first movie, they used a little person with a mask on in some scenes.
Right.
And you can totally tell. And I don't know, I prefer, you know, not that I want to put little people out of business, but I prefer the animatronics, of course, of the
You hate
of the
little
one.
People, admit it.
I despise them.
You use the M word. Go on. You call them midgets on every opportunity.
Never. But no, I prefer the look of the animatronic Chucky versus a little person with a mask over his head. So
right, and that's the one thing I do love that. Like, I'm a big fan of effects and animatronics, and
they're great in this movie. I think they're really good.
They are really good, and that I would definitely give it credit for. I would also give it credit of hanging the furthering the idea, like hanging this whole franchise on a malevolent talking ginger doll. Like, that's pretty, and not in a sort of not in a Charles Band way, and not in a like creepy Annabelle fucking David Wan type way. But in a primary colors animatronic effect, big ginger hair doll thing with Brad Dourif's voice. That's pretty great. You've got to kind of admire that.
I agree.
Because there's nothing scary about him. You know what I mean?
Not really. I mean, he's funny to begin with. That'll teach you to fuck with me. You know, like when he just like goes bananas on people, and then when he gets super super pissed off, his face just looks so hilarious.
Take note, producers, if you're out there listening, when Brad Dourif no longer wants to do it, I think you found your replacement, Scott Toomey, right there.
That was certainly tremendous. Do my best.
But yeah, no. So like the finale's great. There aren't really many standout deaths. I mean, Jenny Agutter, again, spoilers, but Jenny Agutter's death takes place off screen, which is kind of disappointing. The stair death where he falls down and breaks his neck, not particularly inspiring. The guy being killed in the car is not particularly interesting.
He uses a plastic bag over his head, right?
Right. So it's not really until you get to the factory and you have this, like, the machine that sticks the legs and the arms on the dolls. Chucky gets, like, pushed into there and gets, like, multitude of arms and legs and shit on it. And I'm sure if they had more money and more effects and all the rest of it, they would have done, like, some creepy spider Chucky kind of crawling all over the place with his multiple limbs. That would have been
awesome.
But, you know, you get the guy with the doll eyes in his head and all this. But it doesn't strike me that there's like a huge amount of killing in it. Well, the Grace Zabriskie gets killed, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of minor characters get killed. Yes. Oh, the teacher. You're talking about the teacher?
Yeah. Again, that was like a really weird sequence where I'm like, I don't really understand why that's in the movie, other than to add another death to it. You
know? Who did Grace Zabriskie play?
She plays the head of the foster home.
Oh damn! I don't know if she gets killed. I don't remember. I know that his teacher gets killed, and that was who the hell was that? Beth Grant, Miss Kettlewell. Yeah, that was her. She pops up in all kinds of movies all over the place. But yeah, that was she's the only other one that I can remember. The guy in the car, her, and then the security guard in the factory at the end.
Yeah, so it's not rife.
And they're not particularly inventive kills too. Like, I mean, when you watch the Friday the 13th movies, you watch them because you want to see how. You want to see how people die because it's going to be cool or interesting, and the effects are going to be neat and stuff like that. But in this movie, they're the kills, I guess, are pretty run of the mill, I suppose.
It just doesn't live up to the sequelitis that you want, where everything is over the top and crazy. And yeah. So anyway, so Child's Play 2, I can take it or leave it. I would. I honestly feel bad because I wish I'd gone on and watched kind of 3 and 4 and 5 and stuff, and kind of seen where they go with the character, because I may then look back at Child's Play 2 differently. So maybe if we do part 3s next year, we'll get around to that. We'll see.
There you go.
But let's move on to something which I think is far more fascinating, which is Prom Night 2, Electric Boogaloo. It's Prom Night 2, Hello Mary Lou, or Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2, Electric Boogaloo, whatever you want to call it. This actually gets less points on IMDb. It's a 5.5 out of 10. I think that's wrong.
I think so too.
Directed by Bruce Pittman, written by Ron Oliver, and released in 1987. And it's got the great Michael Ironside in it. Previous guest of the After Movie Diner, and it sort of combines Prom Night with Carrie, with what else? I mean, what else does it add? It's sort of it's Carrie meets Prom Night, and then there's one other. There's like one other thing that it's very derivative of.
Well, the thing that I liked about this one, because as I did with Child's Play 1 and 2, I watched Prom Night 1, and then I watched Prom Night 2 just to have a frame of reference. And I liked that they added like a supernatural twist to this one, as opposed to the first one, which I thought was
Poltergeist, I guess. Poltergeist. It's got a kind of poltergeist element to it, I guess. But yeah, there's a great supernatural element to this one. They just decided, well, hang on a second, how do we sequelize Prom Night 2? Let's just go weird with it. That's
pretty much, man. They definitely went super weird with it. And then the first one I felt was kind of more of like it kind of had like a sleepaway camp vibe to it with like the big twist at the end. Of course, not as big a twist as there is at the end of Sleepaway Camp. But
nobody
still
gets their cock out. No.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody pulls out their penis. But the second one, I really, really liked that they added like a supernatural element, and I really liked this movie. Actually, it was really, really fun to watch, and I watched it while I was at work too, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I definitely did as well. There was 2 slashers that I hadn't seen very much. I've seen this one once before. And the other one that I watched was Popcorn, which I'd only seen once before. And I love both those movies now. And they were movies that they're kind of, I don't even call them second tier. Like, if the big 3 are Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street, stuff like Child's Play, Sleepaway Camp, stuff like that, that's more second tier. Yep. This would almost, I don't know, is this second tier or third tier? Like, this feels...
I would put it in, like, the third tier, probably.
Even though it's the sequel to a popular one, I don't know. So, but it certainly feels more... Like, I watched Popcorn, and Popcorn has, like, mad, surreal elements in it as well. And I loved this one. I have to say, weirdly enough, it's only been a couple of weeks, but weirdly enough, you're going to have to talk me through it, because I don't know that I remember
all the nuances of it. It'll probably come back as we talk about it.
The one scene that stood out the most to me was when who was it? Vicky. She's the one that gets possessed by Mary Lou. When she finally gets sucked into the chalkboard.
Right. Yeah.
The chalkboard turns into like black water. That scene was fucking crazy.
Yeah, it is. That's completely bonkers.
The effects were awesome, and it looked insane. And she got sucked into the goddamn chalkboard. Like, well, that's crazy.
And who doesn't love the scene where she's riding the rocking horse?
Oh yeah. Oh, weird. Like super weird. And the horse's tongue like comes out.
Yeah, it does.
Fucking bizarre, man.
Yeah, it does. So the plot summary roughly is when Hamilton High's prom queen of 1957, Mary Lou Maloney, is killed by her jilted boyfriend. In a really kind of like graphically horrible opening sequence.
Yes.
Not that, I mean, not graphic by today's terms in terms of gore and stuff, but just a horrible thought, like a horrible way to die.
For sure.
Essentially. Is killed by her jilted boyfriend. She comes back for revenge 30 years later. Bill Nordham is now the principal of Hamilton High. That is the character played by Michael Ironside. And his son is about to attend the prom with Vicky Carpenter. However, she is possessed by Mary Lou Maloney after opening a trunk in the school's basement. Now Bill must face the horror he left behind in 1957. And, which is all awesome. Like, that's a great thing. You've got the old trend of calling characters by famous horror directors.
Oh, yeah.
So you have Vicky Carpenter. You have Father Cooper. You have Kelly Henenlotter. You have Monica Waters. You have Jess Browning. So is Nordham? I don't know a horror director called Nordham. Or is it?
I don't know. Let's do a quick little search.
There is a Mr. Craven and a Matthew Dante and an Eddie Wood and even a Mr. O'Bannon in this. So there's lots of like nods. It says there's a Mr. Romero. I'm just going through. But it's. I wish I could. I've got to think back, but I wish I could remember more of this movie. Why don't I remember more of this movie? I should have rewatched it.
Well, you probably. We intended to record this at an earlier time, and we've watched these. I mean, I watched it like halfway through October, so it's been almost a month for me.
Yeah.
But
I feel like because Prom Night goes up to part 4, right? Or is there a part 5?
I think just part 4.
It's always interesting when you kind of delve into slashers, like all the ones that got sequels that you're suddenly like, what, really?
Yeah.
And you just, I sort of kind of miss that, because although we have all these TV channels now, and although we have all these streaming sites now, it's not like people don't really remember, but it's not like the video age where people were hungry for titles, like just hungry for titles. So it was bring out whatever you possibly can. Like movies were being made, especially in the horror genre, were being made left, right, and center to be released on VHS because it was such an enormous impact. Far more of a cultural impact than streaming in a way.
Oh, hell yeah. And a lot of time, because like how do you go online and pick what movie you want to stream? I mean, I remember going into the video store and the horror section especially, and just, renting a movie just based purely on the box art.
Right.
Like if the box art looked cool, I'm renting it. Like I even rented the god awful piece of shit, The Ice Cream Man with Clint Howard, just because the box art looked cool.
Right.
That movie's not good.
Didn't they even make an Ice Cream Man 2? Or are they in the process of making?
They probably did. But you don't get like that. Like in this day and age, you don't get like random sequels anymore. Do you know what I mean by that? Like for Prom Night. Prom Night was big. They did Prom Night 2, but I mean, how many people were paying that close attention that they would know that a new Prom Night 3 is coming out next year? You know what I mean? Like it's different now than it was back then. I mean, back then you wouldn't know when a sequel to a movie was coming out in certain cases.
Right.
But now anything that is being made, you can at the click of the keyboard or whatever, you can find any kind of information you need to. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like that, the Howling, isn't the Howling franchise like still going? Like, aren't
Yeah,
they?
there's Children of the Corn. There's like fucking 10 Children of the Corn movies.
Right? And it's incredible.
They
like,
didn't say enough. They didn't say as much as they needed to say with the first one. I guess they needed to make 10 more. So
right, exactly. And I think that's what if anything, I'm for sequels. And again, everyone knows I'm against remakes, but I'm definitely for sequels because I think that there is something you can do with sequels that is interesting. There are ways to take a story forward or to add to a mythology, or in the same way that this movie does, just kind of go, well, we're going to go with Prom Night as the theme, but let's go on and do another one. But as long as, like, the difference between this one, let's say, and Halloween 3 is that while Halloween 3 takes place on Halloween, but is about a completely different thing. Let's say if Halloween 3 was about another guy who went crazy on Halloween night and started killing people, but wasn't Michael Myers, people would probably have been more accepting of that than the whole children with the mask and the TV and the thing that's in about 3. And therefore, so Prom Night 2, it's like, yes, it's a supernatural killer. Yes, it's to do with possession. Yes, she's got like telekinetic powers like Carrie had. Yes, it's also a slasher movie like the first Prom Night. It's kind of like a nice combination of everything. And it's enough Prom Night that it warrants the title of number 2. But they then take it in this whole other area where if you're a horror fan in 1987, you've got no problem with... you've got no problem with this movie, like, going into the supernatural areas in which it goes.
I mean, the only thing that is the same about Prom Night and Prom Night 2 is that, like, the main event where all the good stuff happens is at a prom. That's pretty much it. There's not really very many other things that are alike between the two movies. I mean, they really took it in a completely, totally different direction as from the first movie.
Right, but they're both about sort of the build up towards the prom. I mean, obviously, this one starts with the prom, and the reason why it gets the Carrie comparison is the telekinetic stuff.
Oh yeah,
that starts happening once she's sort of humiliated in front of everyone.
And it wasn't originally supposed to be a sequel to Prom Night, because I'm reading it. Just as we're doing this, I'm reading it on Wikipedia that the movie was originally titled "The Haunting of Hamilton High,"
right? And
then the Alliance Films retitled it Prom Night 2 to build on the success of Prom Night. And I guess the director or no, the producer, Peter Simpson, wasn't too keen about that. Actually, he thought that it hurt the film and that it should have been, marketed and distributed, I guess, on its own merits and not as a sequel.
I think maybe at the time he was right. I think with hindsight, I think it's fun that it's Prom Night 2.
Yeah. I think it fits in for sure. It fits in. I mean, I don't know. I didn't see 3 and 4, but I think it fits in as a part of the overall theme that they're going for sure.
And the funny thing is like I say, like, I really loved this movie when I was watching it.
Me too.
And I feel really stupid, but while I'm talking to you now and I'm reading Wikipedia and I'm trying to remind myself, I can't remember a lot of it. I remember Michael Ironside in it, and I remember the church scenes, which I liked in the confessional because that was great fun. I remember the beginning bit. I remember the bit where you're talking about where she gets sucked into the blackboard. That's always good fun. I remember the horse rocking scene, but I don't remember like a lot of. Oh, there's the one where they crush one of the women in a locker.
Yep. Oh yeah, dang. Yeah, she gets stuck in the locker, and then the ones on either side of her just collapse in and
wasn't that the gratuitous booby scene? Isn't that the gratuitous booby scene?
I think it was. Yes. Well, every good 80s horror movie has to have a gratuitous booby scene.
Yeah, and this one sort of plays off obviously it doesn't go where the opening of Carrie goes, but like the opening of Carrie is obviously like the infamous slowed down naked shower scene. And this sequence, I seem to remember, like they're all naked in the shower, and then she comes after like Monica, right? Is it Monica who's being a bitch to her or something?
Probably, yeah, I think it is. Yes, Monica's brain spurts out through the locker ventilation slits.
Which it's, I mean, it's not obvious that it's her brain. It's more just like Jello comes out of the slits. But I remember like reading before I saw the movie that someone said like, "Oh, look out for the infamous locker sequence," and I remember watching it, going, "Really? Some jam comes out like for the." So, I mean, maybe in 1987 that was crazy. I don't know.
Some raspberry preserves.
Right.
Yeah, it's really, oh man, I don't know. It's just one of those movies where you don't take our word for it. You gotta watch it.
Yeah, we're not doing it justice. We're really not doing it justice.
Absolutely not. I mean, there's so many good things about it. I mean, it's fucking weird. There's weird scenes. The creepy like AV guy coerces that one girl into giving him a blowjob so that he like. What is he? He fixes the computer program that tallies up the votes for prom queen and all kinds of. There's so much weirdness in it, and there's like, like kind of like creepy like sexual scenes in it. There's good deaths. It has pretty much everything and anything that you would want out of a really fun, entertaining horror movie.
Yeah, I completely agree. Give me 5 minutes. Sorry, dude. Give me a couple of minutes. Kim had a food order delivered.
She got you some Boylan's.
She got me some Boylan's. Here we go.
Oh,
yes,
gosh.
Ladies and gentlemen listening, I'm about to open a Boylan's and drink that while we go on. Sweet, 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 sweet Boylan's. I sing in sweet, 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 sweet boiling soda. I can't get enough of the sweet, sweet stuff. No, I can't get enough of that boiling stuff. So that, what are you opening? So I can hear you opening something.
Well, I'm opening a beer by one of my favorite, actually probably my favorite brewery in Massachusetts. They're called Treehouse Brewing, and I'm opening up their flagship IPA, and it is called Julius, and it's the tastiest. Nice. It's the tastiest beer in the history of beer. It's so good.
Sweet, sweet Boylan's cream soda.
Mm-hmm.
I want Boylan's to sponsor the After Movie Diner.
That would be great. That would be really cool.
I want the After Movie Diner brought to you by Boylan's.
I wouldn't be surprised if that ended up happening at some point, to tell you the truth.
Wouldn't that be incredible?
It would be great.
But then I could start every episode with, "This is the After Movie Diner brought to you by Boylan's."
Nice.
Do my little radio voice.
You've already got it down.
I have. I don't need anything else. The greatest soda in the world. So yeah, that's what we do. Anyway, no, as we were saying, Hello Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, Electric Boogaloo is a really great movie. Lots of weird shit happens. Lots of
Lisa
fun
Schrage.
stuff.
Let's not forget to talk about Lisa Schrage. Oh.
Lisa Schrage?
Yeah, she plays Mary Lou.
Right. Yes.
Big
great
time.
looking people in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Nice and sexy.
It was funny because Louis Ferreira, who plays Craig, I've never seen him in anything but I recognized him because I knew that he was in the beginning of your favorite director's remake of Dawn of the Dead. So.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he plays the blonde girl's boyfriend that dies like right at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a small part.
It's a Canadian horror movie, hence why Michael Ironside shows up. What is for a bonus point, Scott? What is the other slasher film made in Canada that Michael Ironside is famous for?
Oh, no. I don't know. The only, I'm sure there's plenty, but the only other Canadian slasher film that I know of is My Bloody Valentine.
Right.
But he's not in that, is he?
No, he's not in that. No, the one he is in is Visiting Hours with William Shatner, and he actually plays the bad guy in that.
I'll have to check that out. I do love My Bloody Valentine, though, and it actually caused me to go and like scour liquor stores looking for Moosehead Lager beer, because that's what they drink in it, and it's a purely Canadian beer. Moosehead, if you've never had it, give it a shot.
I don't think you live far enough north. I mean, you live north, but I don't think you live far enough north for that.
It took a little while to find it, but you know, it's like one step above Moose Piss. So
right. You can import it though, right?
Yeah, I think so.
What was hilarious was that Leslie Nielsen used to do ads for Molson. Do you remember that?
No.
Where he would, maybe it was just in the UK, but he would do ads for Molson dressed up as a Mountie.
That's so weird.
That's about all I know about Canadian beer. And as far as I'm aware, Molson's is a bit like Foster's is for Australians. Yeah. Real Canadians won't fucking go near it, just like real Australians won't drink Foster's. But when Foster's is advertised, I don't know whether it is over here, but in the UK, Foster's is always advertised by Australians. It's like the Australian lager. And you're like, I don't even think it's made in Australia, so it's really weird.
Probably not.
There was that, and Castlemaine 4X in the UK was all advertised by Australians. And it used to be, Australians don't give a 4X for anything else. That used to be the tagline.
Jeez.
And it was all kind of around the time of Crocodile Dundee and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sorry that, like, probably my second favorite film out of these three, Prom Night 2, I don't have a lot to say about other than go see it. Like, just go see it. It's
just watch it.
Figure it out, find it. It might even be on YouTube, but it's a good one. It's a damn good one for what it is. It's got enough of the weird shit in it that keeps me interested. It's got that kind of Nightmare on Elm Street, anything can turn into a threat kind of thing.
It took me completely by surprise because of the fact that I watched the first one and just how different they are. It totally surprised me. The supernatural elements, all the weird set pieces that they do, the freaking chalkboard scene, man. I can't stop thinking about it now that we're discussing the movie. Yeah, it's so cool. It's just such a cool look and a cool way to do things. But yeah, no, this movie really surprised me. I wasn't like Prom Night 1 didn't really blow my skirt up, if you know what I mean. But Part 2 was real enjoyable to watch.
Talking about Leslie Nielsen, he's in Prom Night 1.
That's right. Yes.
And no, Prom Night was always one of those of the Jamie Lee Curtis slashers that I wanted to enjoy a lot more than I actually do. Yeah. It's one of those that I obviously put in there. There's Terror Train. There's that one. There's the Halloweens.
I feel like one of the main problems that I had with Prom Night 1 is that it takes itself too seriously, I think.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And
it really
just
does.
I don't know. Didn't really enjoy it that much.
And it's also like very early 80s. There's a lot of roller disco bullshit in it.
A lot of feathered hair. Oh my God, you're right. Yeah, the disco dancing scenes. Holy shit, those were crazy. Wow.
Yeah, and so I mean, Prom Night 1 is what it is. It's sort of a very much a product of its time.
2 is great.
And two is fantastic. Check it out.
So, before we continue with the After Movie Diner, don't forget that the startlingly awesome supernatural buddy cop comedy from Moturn Media and Shock Marathon's Slingshot Cops is coming to a theater near you and is also available on DVD and Blu-ray. Oh yes! If you are in Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York, or anywhere near the northeastern seaboard of the United States of America, do yourself a favor and go to one of the Slingshot Cop premieres. That's right. Connecticut premiere is on November 26th at 5 p.m. at the Strand Theater. The Rhode Island premiere is on December 4th at 1 p.m. at the Comedy Connection. And the New York premiere is on December 10th at 7 p.m. at the Bundy Museum of History and Art. If you want to find out more about Slingshot Cops, or if you would like to purchase the Blu-ray and DVD, head on over to the After Movie Diner. Because on the front page of the AfterMovieDiner.com, we have all the information about Slingshot Cops. Simply click the banner and find out where you can see the movie or buy the Blu-ray and DVD. So to round up this trilogy of slasher sequels, it's Halloween 2, which was always going to be a difficult one considering how iconic and how incredible Halloween 1 was. How do you follow that up? Famously, John Carpenter did not want to, which is why he only wrote and produced it. He did not direct it. It is directed by Rick Rosenthal.
What else did he do? He did a lot of stuff. Oh my God, he actually came back and directed. Wait, did he direct it? Halloween Resurrection? Yeah, he did. Holy shit, I didn't know that.
He directed Halloween Resurrection?
Rosenthal directed Halloween Resurrection.
Jesus, and that's awful.
That's crazy. But he didn't touch any of the other ones. It doesn't look like. The name's more familiar to me than it should be, though, because. But I don't know him from anything other than Halloween 2. I don't know.
But John Carpenter wrote it with Deborah Hill, and always sort of he didn't know what to do with it. So it's the famous, what he says, famous 2 a.m. decision, smoking cigarettes. He goes, "Oh fuck it, Michael is her brother," which through some creative writing sort of plays into the whole thing.
Did they never touch on that in the first one?
Never, ever, ever. It's not meant to be mentioned at all, and it's not even the case in the first one.
Shit, that's pretty crazy.
In fact, someone said to me the other day while I was talking about the Halloween franchise online, they were like, "Doesn't he kill his parents in the first one?" And I'm like, "No, the Strodes, I suppose it is, or the Myers as they were." The Myers family, he kills the older sister, but once we get to, we skip forward 15 years, and it goes to Jamie Lee Curtis, is that we never see the Myers parents again. I mean, the Myers parents should essentially still be alive.
Yeah.
They never get killed, and they never get mentioned again either. And why Laurie Strode would have been fostered off to another family or whatever happened, I have no idea. Like it doesn't get explained. And what's weird is I must have seen Halloween 1 and 2 and the franchise multiple times. It's my favorite slasher franchise.
Yep.
I love 1, 2, and 7 as the Jamie Lee Curtis trilogy, and 4, 5, and 6 as the daughter trilogy. Mm-hmm. But I'd never noticed that. I never noticed that the Myers family just fucking disappears, and Laurie Strode is sort of written into this one as his sister. But we have Jamie Lee Curtis returning. We have Donald Pleasance returning. We have the actress, and I'm going to forget her name now, but she plays the nurse in the first one.
Oh.
She returns.
Well, we can't. He doesn't return, but we can't forget about one of my favorite '80s actors, Lance Guest.
Yeah, Lance Guest is in this.
Love Lance Guest.
Leah Rossi, who would go on to be a favorite of Bill Lustig's. Leah Rossi crops up in a lot of Bill Lustig movies, nice. Like Maniac Cop 2 and various other ones. Billy Warlock is in this movie. Who would go on to be in Baywatch and Society and Days of Our Lives and various other things. He plays Craig in this movie. So, and it's one of the few sequels that follows on directly from the first one, like literally that very same night. I
love that. I love that about this movie. I love that it's not the next year or whatever.
With Jamie Lee being whisked off to a hospital.
They're so cool.
And Dr. Sam Loomis, the irrepressible Donald Pleasance, and Sheriff Brackett standing outside the house saying, "Michael is still loose. We got to go get him." So basically, we pick it back up. It is, for the most part, half continuation of the first one, with Loomis and Brackett out doing their thing, and half a slasher film set in a hospital.
Oh, God.
And it's set in the darkest,
most unoccupied, unmanaged hospital on the entire planet. No one turns on a light. No one is in charge of anything. There are about 2 nurses, 2, what are they called? EMTs.
Yep.
And
a security guard.
A security dude. Yeah, security guard.
One doctor.
Skilled. One doctor, and that's
Who's
about
drunk.
it. Who's right? That's the other thing. One of the doctors drunk. Leah Rossi is one of the EMTs. Has sex with one of the nurses, and not has sex, but like goes for a naked hot tub with one of the nurses for no reason whatsoever. It's a hospital that's it's completely ridiculous. There is a child ward where there are all these like babies in incubators or whatever they're called. I don't know what they're called. Are they called incubators? That doesn't sound right.
Something.
But,
incubators.
But none of the mothers are around. None of I have no idea what's going on. So it's completely bizarre, but you have to kind of take that leap forward.
Yeah. Well, you would think that that the hospital would be a bit more staffed than it is, with it being Halloween night. I mean, kids can get into mischief and cause little problems and stuff. And isn't there a scene too that didn't they cut it out of the TV version where they show a mother bringing her son to the hospital and he has like a razor blade like stuck in his mouth?
Yes. Now, what's interesting about that? It's in my version. Obviously, I have the DVD, but. What's interesting about that is shortly after watching this movie again this season, and in fact it was the first one of Horror-tober that I watched.
Nice.
Was Halloween 2, although I've seen it like fucking hundreds of times.
Oh yeah.
Was that I actually found an article online where it's like, is the scariest scene in Halloween 2 the one where the mother brings her child to the ER with a razor blade in its mouth? I don't know if it's the scariest scene, but it's certainly like oddly sick, and because it's played as a comedic scene, because the old chestnut is, if you take an apple on Halloween night, there might be a razor blade in it, which, by the way, has never happened. Like, that's never been found, but it's like an urban legend. So it's sort of a joke, like, oh, this kid got a razor blade in his mouth. Like, it's kind of played a bit like that, but the effect, because the razor blade is between the kid's 2 lips.
Yeah.
And the blood is like coming down his chin. The effect is so kind of sickening, and you can imagine just the sheer pain this kid is in, that this whole like bit of comedy business about her showing up at the hospital and there not being anyone around, and the doctor being drunk, and the person on the front desk not, like this whole thing's going on, and you're like, wait a minute, this kid's got a fucking razor blade in his face. It's kind of like the weirdest scene in the movie, and I think put in there as a joke, but it kind of backfires because it just kind of makes me feel queasy. Because for some reason I can completely take someone being stabbed repeatedly with a knife, but the idea of a small kid with a razor blade in his lips, and every time he moves you can imagine that pain. Like, there's something about that it's sort of too real. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Because we've all, like on a cold night, we've all had that thing where you get like a split lip, like your middle lip. If you don't use
so much,
right? If you don't use, because I don't use lip salve or lip balm or any of that stuff. I never have done. So occasionally my lip splits, especially on like a cold day, and it so hurts. So you can imagine this fucking razor blade. Like, it's such a horrible scene. So anyway, Jamie Lee Curtis sadly spends most of the film kind of comatose or lying in bed or being harassed by a young curly-haired EMT played by Lance Guest, right? Jimmy. It's fine, but it's a little like, come on, get on with it. Eventually, though, Michael finds her and starts his sort of full-on assault on the hospital, which is kind of what you want at that point in the movie.
You want to get right into it for sure.
There's a nice couple of touches which they do a couple of times in the series, which is this idea that if that's a Halloween mask that Michael could pick up anywhere.
Yep.
In a store, there would be more than one kid dressed like that. And therefore in this, although why they would be wearing a boiler suit doesn't make a lick of sense, because he obviously has...
He steals it from the guy, the garage tow truck driver in the beginning.
Yeah, he does.
Right. In the
Right. Whereas in the second one, there's no reason for the kid that they kill to be wearing a boiler suit. But anyway, it is.
Ben Tramer. That was Ben Tramer. Did you know that?
Is it meant to be Ben Tramer?
Yeah. I think they mentioned it actually a little bit later. They do the dental records, and it was, all right, well, just kid Ben Tramer. And
that's the one that she likes in the first one, right?
Yep.
You never meet him, but
nope. But he dies.
Interesting.
and burns.
Look at that. I'm such a fan of this franchise, and I'd never put the two things together. Yeah. So this poor kid gets crushed. Is it between a car and a tree?
I think it's between two cars. I think it's between a car and an ambulance.
Oh, okay. And then blows up and sets on fire.
Yep.
And it's not Michael Myers, but it's enough for like the sheriff's department to be like, maybe that was him. Let's forget all about it.
Fucking morons, dude.
Which always makes me laugh because I'm like, there's a killer on the loose because there's all these dead bodies. But Brackett's just like, I think we got it. Let's just forget about it. And of course that means Loomis has to be like, no, I'm off. I'm going to go and get him. He's not a man. You're talking about him like he's alive. All that kind of stuff. Which I love Donald Pleasance in these movies.
So fan. It's like perfectly cast for that role for sure. Oh God,
so good. And then when you get to part 4 and part 5, he's even more badass.
Oh, with the scarred up face and everything.
Fuck yes.
Oh.
I just want I wish this hadn't got bogged down in legal hullabaloo, because I would have loved there to have been, Halloween 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 with Pleasance.
Yeah.
And then do like Halloween 11 when Jamie Lee Curtis comes back. Like, I just want to see Pleasance fight Michael a million times. Because it's my favorite thing. But yeah, so he goes off, they go to the hospital, lots of fights, lots of deaths. And then in the end, the ending, they kind of, where John Carpenter was like, all right, enough already. We're going to kill this fucking character. Spoilers for people who haven't seen it. But Donald Pleasance, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Michael Myers are trapped in a room. Don says, get out, Laurie. He turns on all the gas. Well, they stab Michael in the eyes, right?
Yeah, she stabs him in the eyes, I think, with the scalpel. And then that you got the famous scene with him with the mask on and the blood running down the eyes.
Right.
So
and
cool.
then, so they distract him by turning on different gases.
Oh, she shoots him. I'm sorry. She shoots him in the face.
Oh, she
shoots him. Like, not having ever fired a gun before in her entire life, she manages to get him in both eye sockets.
Does that happen? Okay. Like I say, I watched this back on October 1st, so I'll take your word for it.
I forgot about that.
So,
because he has the scalpel. He starts, like, swiping at her while he's covering his eyes.
And this is the other crazy thing is, of course, we're led to believe that he can survive all this stuff, but is actually blinded by 2 bullets. Whereas if he was supernatural, why wouldn't bullets just pass right through him?
Yeah.
But he is actually blinded and disorientated enough that they can get him in a room full of gas, get Laurie out of there, and Donald Pleasance, in the final act of self-sacrifice, blows up the entire hospital.
What a man.
Only for them to both survive at the beginning of Halloween 4. But it is what it is. We have to accept that. But it's not like, for me, Halloween 1 and Halloween 4 are like the 2 strongest in the franchise, and then probably H2O maybe. But Halloween 2, I do love Halloween 2, and it's certainly my favorite out of the 3 that we watched for this.
I love how claustrophobic they make it, even though they're in a huge hospital. Do you know what I mean? Like that feeling of claustrophobia where there's nowhere else to go.
Especially even when she's being chased, yes.
Yeah, even when she makes it out and like gets to the car, but oh shit, he fucking slashed all the tires. You know what I mean? Like she's not getting out of there unless she gets some help from somebody.
Right. And I think, there's some very nice... Again, it's... The best thing about the Halloween sequels is, for all the inconsistencies and for the fact that they're just slasher films, they're always well written. They're always solid. They're always structured well. They become less so sort of part 5 onwards, but part 1, 2, 4, bits of 5 and 7 they're just like good, solid horror movies. And they're well written, well thought out. They're normally tension over gore, and action over, sitting around and not doing anything. And I always really appreciate them. I mean, I remember, not so much now as I rewatch it, but I remember watching H2O in the cinema when it came out, and it being very effective. Yeah. Now, these movies become less so as you grow up and you kind of become inured to the horror of them because you know what's happening. Yeah. But when you see them the first couple of times and you don't know when he's going to jump out or something, or you don't know that he's in the car, or you don't know that he's in the hospital where he is. Like that sequence, I think that was the most effective this time around watching it is still the security guard sequence. Oh, yeah. Because you just don't know where he is or what's going to happen. And I hadn't remembered it in detail enough,
Yeah. I'm actually just like kind of perusing the Wikipedia article here, and it's like Carpenter really didn't want to have anything to fucking do with this movie at all. I'm reading like they originally wanted to have the sequel set a few years after the events of Halloween, and they had planned to have Myers track Laurie Strode to her new home in a high-rise apartment building. It was, let me see. It was Carpenter's decision to make the movie more gory. It said the decision to include more gore and nudity in the sequel was not made by Rick Rosenthal, who contends that it was Carpenter who chose to make the film much bloodier than the original. The film's official website even says that Carpenter came in and directed a few sequences to clean up some of Rosenthal's work. That's pretty crazy. Yeah. Carpenter has a quote that says, when asked about his role in the directing process, that's a long, long story. That was a project I got involved in as a result of several different kinds of pressure. I had no influence over the direction of the film. I had an influence in the post-production. I saw a rough cut of Halloween 2, and it wasn't scary. It was about as scary as Quincy. I don't know what that means.
Quincy was a
Quincy
TV...
Okay.
Yeah. No, Quincy was a TV series about a pathologist.
That's right. Okay. My mom used to watch that show all the time. So we had to do some post-production work to bring it at least up to par with the competition. Rosenthal was not pleased with Carpenter's changes. He reportedly complained that Carpenter, quote, ruined my carefully paced film. So that's pretty interesting stuff there.
Yeah.
I like the way it turned out.
I love the way it turned out. I don't know.
I think it's one of the better slasher sequels that you could get, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely better than the Friday the 13th and Nightmare direct sequels. Part 2 of Nightmare and Part 2 of Friday the 13th are not the strongest in that in either franchise.
Well, Nightmare 2 is worthy of its own entire podcast episode. So.
Well, I've done a podcast episode on Nightmare 2 with the wonderful Kirk Howley. The homoerotic Nightmare 2.
Oh, hell yeah.
But the... I for me, as long as there's Donald Pleasance, as long as there's that theme, and as long as there's Michael Myers, I'm sort of happy. And
if Carpenter's involved in any way at all, I'm pretty pleased, I think. And then, in this, he wrote this one obviously, and he collaborated with his buddy there to do the score, Alan Haworth. So that's good enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is if he, what I don't really understand about Carpenter, bless him, is that he writes it, he co-produces it, he does the music for it. I'm like, why didn't you just direct it? You know what I mean? Like, why, they just do it. Like, you're doing all this work towards it. Why didn't you just direct it? I mean, maybe, he went off and did The Thing shortly after this, so maybe this is the best that he didn't. But like, it does have Carpenter's fingerprints all over it. It's not as accomplished. It's not as accomplished as the first one, but it's never going to be. And to expect that is sort of ridiculous. And I think it's not a sequel that goes anywhere. It's not a sequel that expands the world in any great
shakes, but it does what it says on the tin. It kind of does what you would hope it would do, I think.
Yep.
And it's, as long as it's got Donald Pleasance spouting bollocks, I'm happy.
I think Carpenter did an interview, I think shortly after it came out, and was like, yeah, that's it. Like, Michael's dead, Pleasance is dead, see you later. And then, of course, it was, his name, Mustafa Akkad, and I don't know if they were Dimension Films at the time, but they were the ones that decided to...
No, Dimension bought them later on. Mustafa Akkad was an independent producer at the time.
Did Dimension come in for the fourth one?
No, 6, I think, is the first one that is a Dimension one, I think. Dimension later releases them because they end up getting the rights to the franchise. But I think the first one that's produced by them is either 6 or 7.
It's such a the franchise itself is such a weird thing, because you've got the first two that are like hand in hand, work really, really well together, and then you've got part 3, which on its own, is a fine, in my opinion, a fine kind of science fiction type horror movie.
It just shouldn't have been called. First of all, it shouldn't be called Season of the Witch. Secondly, it shouldn't be called Part 3.
Yep.
It should be Halloween, Terror of the Masks, or whatever.
I know. I mean, I know that it was the intention to have it be more of like an anthology series, with like a new, a different story for every movie that they made.
Right, but then in which case the number isn't relevant. Like, if they're standalone movies, right, after Halloween 2 finishes, that's the story of Michael Myers. Halloween 3 could have been Halloween, the Terror of the Mask, and then Halloween 4 could have been Halloween, Season of the Witch. They could actually done a story about witches. Halloween, whatever. and the number wouldn't have become relevant, because the numbers are only relevant if you have to watch something in order. Right. If you don't have to see Halloween 1 and 2 in order to enjoy Halloween 3, don't call it Halloween 3.
Right. I agree.
And that's kind of how I feel about it. With Mary Lou Prom Night 2, it could have just been called, the Terror, whatever, Harrington High, or the Horror at Harrington High, or whatever.
Yeah. Or it could have been called Prom Night, Hello, Mary Lou.
Right.
That would work.
The fact that it's Prom Night 2 doesn't bother me, because it is set around prom night, and it is sort of from the same... what's the word? From the same genesis, from the same, from the same bones. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear it. I understand what you are trying to
Whereas
say.
Halloween 3 is not the same bones as Halloween 1 and 2 at all.
It's totally different.
So my feeling is, if I don't need to see 1 and 2, like, the biggest problem with Army of Darkness is that it's not Evil Dead 3. Army of Darkness should be Evil Dead 3, because, you can enjoy Army of Darkness on its own, but not really. Like... If Army of Darkness had been Evil Dead 3, like, if they were able to call it Evil Dead 3, and if Universal had said, look, we want Evil Dead 3, so just, do all the things that are Evil Dead and all the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
That could have actually been a better movie. I mean, it's a good movie, but it could have been a much better movie. Whereas Halloween 3 would be a much better movie without the 3 there, I think.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then it could just be...
I do know what you mean.
Because it always bugs me, like, Halloween 4 shouldn't be Halloween 4. It should be Halloween 3, because it's the continuation of Michael Myers. So it's a weird sequel. Oh, sorry, a weird franchise. Because then, of course, you have, I suppose Halloween 8 is in canon. I don't like to agree with that, because Laurie Strode dies, and I don't think Laurie Strode ever dies. I think you should have left it with the end of Part 7 with her being victorious. I think they gave the franchise the perfect ending. I find that 8 kind of insults that and ruins that to some extent, which is a shame. But while it's an imperfect franchise, it's still my favorite. It certainly contains my favorite horror movies of any of the other franchises.
Of the three franchises that we watch, it certainly has the movies that deserve a viewing every Halloween season.
Yeah. I mean, and I can sit and watch Halloween, even Halloween 5 and 6, which are not the strongest, I can sit and watch quite happily.
Yeah.
And I never kind of get antsy about it. Any final thoughts on any of the movies we've talked about today, sir?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, I'm in agreement with you as far as, our thoughts on the quality of each movie and stuff like that. Like I said before, I think Halloween 2 is probably I think honestly the best horror movie sequel that they could have hoped for with that particular franchise.
Yeah.
Prom Night 2 is just balls to the wall, fucking ridiculousness and so much fun. And Child's Play 2 is watchable, but barely. I guess that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I think that what I love about Prom Night 2 is its inventiveness. And what I like about Halloween 2 is its consistency. Mm-hmm. And what I like about Child's Play 2 is the bit where Chucky gets lots of hands and arms on him.
Yeah, pretty much. Stuff. I mean, I really like that they had the sack to go in a completely different direction with Prom Night 2.
And again, I think that comes from obviously the fact that it's not made as a part 2; it was made as its own thing. And
and one of my favorite things about Halloween 2 is that they end it with this Mr. Sandman by the Chordettes. I love that fucking shit. It's so good.
Yeah, no, I just like that everyone came back and everyone did it. And
there you go.
Despite what Carpenter may think, it's a beloved sequel. Well, anyway, dude, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for popping by the After Movie Diner yet again. We must
My
make
pleasure.
this
The pleasure's all mine.
We'll make this a more regular occurrence, most definitely.
Anytime you need
and speak to you soon, sir. Take care.
Thanks, buddy.
They're slasher sequels, they're part 2s to part 1s. They're often retreads and will never live up to the originals. But once you accept that, they can often be a lot of fun. More gore and more outrageous than the beloved originals. But every film must be taken on its own merits. Except horrible cash-in remakes. And as long as we get a whole heap more of what we love, give us more slasher sequels, do whatever it takes. Get Donald Pleasance, get Jenny Agutter. Make it supernatural and put in way more boobs. I like boobs. Add more graphic violence, gratuitous nudity, and more humor. Or just rename another movie as your sequel. A movie with more boobs. I like boobs. But every film must be taken on its own merits. Except horrible cash-in remakes. And as long as we get a whole heap more of what we love, give us more slasher sequels, do whatever it takes, and put boobs in them. Yeah, as long as we get a whole heap more of what we love. slash